Hi, I'm Stephen Hand and I'm running for Mayor of Onkaparinga, and I'm standing in front of Christie's Beach High School. Now you're probably wanting to know why I'm standing in front of Christie's Beach High School. It's because education for me is a key factor for this council, and when I say the residents of this council, we have some of the worst results in the state. I don't see anyone mentioning it. It's like it's a ignored factor for people who live in this area. Now I just want to go through a bit of this so it's like in your face, because it's in my face and it's in my heart. I grew up here, so that's the first thing I'm going to say. This would have been my high school. About one person who graduates from this high school will go to university. One. So that's the first thing I want to raise. I want to talk about the results of this high school compared to other high schools in the state, and then I want to compare it to private schools. So the results for this high school, there are 5% of people who get A's in this high school. That compares to Brighton High School, where 32% of people get A's. So if you go to Brighton High School, a third of the people are going to be getting A's. If you go here, you're pretty lucky to get an A. Now, is that acceptable? They're both public schools. Now you're going to say, well, is it to do with the teachers? Is it to do with funding? Look, I don't really care what it's to do with. I care about results. I care about the kids who go here. I care about the families who live here. Let's say you're a family and you live in this area, and this school catches right from Morphettvale, Christie's Beach. It's got a big catchment area because they closed the other high school I would have gone, which was Morphettvale High School. If you have to go to this school, your chances of going to university are almost zero. And you're going to say, well, why do you care about going to university? Maybe you want to be you should go into trade or retail. Well, I'm going to address that as well. I tried to get a trade. I tried to get in the police force. I tried to get in the army. I couldn't get any of them. And I applied everywhere for apprenticeships. So I went to university. I graduated university. I couldn't get a job in this state because there was no jobs. Unemployment was high, so I went to Canberra, where I had a whole bunch of job offers from all government departments, and I was pretty close to the top of my class when it came to science and IT, so I had lots of A's. So now I have two sisters. They both went to Flinders University too, and they both have very successful careers. Now, I'm not saying you have to go to university, and a lot of people won't want to go to university. But if you want to go to university and you want to become a doctor, a nurse, a vet, an accountant, a teacher, you should have that option. But in the Christie's Beach area, and I'm going to say the Christie's Beach, in the Onkaparinga area, your chances of going to university and becoming a person who's got qualifications, tertiary qualifications, are greatly reduced as opposed to if you lived in a central area, like in Adelaide. And to me, that's not acceptable. Now, $7 million was spent on this school. Now, how's that compared to other schools? Actually, it's pretty similar. There's about 700 students who go to Christie's Beach High School. So it's clearly not, and when I say 7 million, that was 7 million on upgrading the school. It's not for teachers and all that. That was just upgrading the school. That equates to Brighton, who got about $3.9 million for upgrades. So, I don't think it's about that. But I really want to touch on how we improve stuff at schools and how we report on this. And this should be a major issue for voters when they vote, and how they feel about living in this community. Because for me, when I was doing research on health, when I was in the Department of Health, and when I was in the Department of Social Security doing statistics on demographics and outcomes and all that sort of stuff, the education in this area was some of the worst in Australia. Now I want to just touch on ATAR score. We went to Prince Alfred College. The average ATAR is 84.73. So this relates a whole thing to private education versus public education. Some people will say, well, I have to pay for a private education. Look, some people want a private education, and there's people who can't afford it and they work really hard. You should still have, if you go to a public school, you should still have the ability to get scores equivalent, in my mind, to what you receive in the private school education. Like in hospitals, you've got a choice of public and private. And the outcomes are pretty similar. You just basically skip the wait times and you have the choice of doctors and stuff. Well, that should be similar to the education system. Norway has some of the best results in the world as far as an education system. They do not have private schools. I'm not saying we shouldn't have private schools. I'm just saying the results in the Onkaparinga area are not good enough and we need to address it. Now, so you're going to say, well, what's this got to do with council? This should be a state issue, and absolutely agree. And I think the local politicians should be waving this as their number one agenda. But I know in 8 years, I have never seen anyone mention education in this Onkaparinga area ever. Never ever. So why do I think it's important? So as mayor, I think it's important to consult with business, the schools, and maybe the school committees about how we improve the education standards of schools like this. Now, I came up with some ideas, and that's probably going to be similar to stuff which has been done before. And I think we should be a pilot site for the state to see how we improve stuff. So some of my ideas, we should have tutors, and the tutors can be actually students coming down to teach other students. So with education levels, you generally can teach 3 years prior, 3 years, you've got to be 3 years advanced of the people you're teaching. So we could have, if we've got a year 7 student, we could have a year 11 student teaching the year 7 student after school, and actually helping those students out to bring them up to level. So it would provide pocket money. When I say pocket money, it would provide an income for the year 11s, or make them more self-aware. It'll make them more responsible. I think working, employment is a great thing. I tutored through university, I tutored kids, and I was going to join the education department, but I chose not to because they moved you around all the time. I didn't want to be moved around. I wanted to build a house. I wanted to build a family. I didn't want to move. I wanted to build a community. So I didn't want to move from school to school as a teacher, so I never became a teacher. But I tutored, and I've got many friends who are teachers. So I would be interested in tutoring systems where we have tutors come into schools, and we actually have students who help people. I'd be interested in businesses supporting schools and giving like funding to schools, and maybe like awards. So if you're a business, you might provide an award for the best maths student. If you're in the local pizza shop, we might have an award where we give away $100 worth of pizzas. Now, these businesses would get advertising at the school for these awards, and it would provide an incentive for the students to do better. Now, for my own son, my son did very well at school. He got 99.5 tertiary ATAR score. I had incentives for him in place to do well. So I think I gave him $50 for each A he got. And he really liked taking my money. I'm going to say he still likes taking my money. But he really liked taking it. It's like, wow, look at this. But I want incentives for the kids and recognition for hard work. Now, when I went to school, I'm just going to talk a bit about my education. We had teachers who told me, Stephen, it doesn't matter how hard you work, you cannot get there if you're there. Now, I really wanted to go back to that teacher and say, look, my university scores far exceed what your university score was. It's about hard work and it's about quality of teaching. And basically motivating people to learn, maybe being a good teacher and be able to convey the message of what people need to learn is one of the keys. So I'm going to put that out there. Now, I'm also going to say, for me, education is one of the components to success, and it's a key component to success in life. It's not the only factor. One's hard work. But let's just look at success in life. How many state premiers come from a public school? How many premiers come from the southern area? We comprise 10% of the state down south, so therefore 1 in 10 premiers should probably come from the south. Has there ever been a premier come from the south? Has there ever been a prime minister which comes from South Australia? Not in my lifetime. Anyway, for me, raising the level of education, having programs in place, and when I say programs, having new ideas, pilots, we can talk to education departments, we can talk to businesses, we can talk to the school boards, about improving things. And if we're on council, let's make this a priority for us, the education of our kids. I'm Stephen Hand and I'm running for mayor, and I'd really appreciate your vote. Thanks for watching.